Hello, English 1301 students. I'm here today to talk to you about your upcoming journal assignment. I'd like particularly to talk about why we're doing this and how we're going to do it so that you can get the most benefit out of this task. So before we start talking about how this works, I want to differentiate between journals and diaries. Journals are a place for you to write and explore ideas, and diaries are confessionals. So a diary is more something where you would record your daily activities and maybe even try to get secrets off of your mind. This is not a diary. We're going to be writing journals. And in these journals, you're going to practice sustained intellectual thought. You're going to respond to challenging texts, and you're going to get a chance to share and evaluate the development of insightful writing with your groups. And we're going to do this daily. So basically what will happen is every day when you come to class, you'll be given a short passage to read. You'll get a chance to summarize that reading, and then we'll quickly share summaries for accuracy to make sure everybody's getting the same thing out of what you read. Next, you'll have some time to respond in class independently about 2 handwritten pages to the idea expressed in the text you were given. And then we'll share writing at your tables, evaluate entries for insightfulness, and celebrate great thinking by picking out what we think is the most insightful commentary from the journals of that day and read them aloud. So really, the reason we're doing this is practice. You can see on the screen here the student learning outcomes and the general learning outcomes for this course and for ACC courses in general. And critical thinking is something you'll hear about quite a lot. Critical thinking and critical reading means that you're not just passively accepting ideas or passively reading something and accepting it to be true, but rather you're engaging with that idea on your own, with your own thoughts, and synthesizing, evaluating, gathering, analyzing information, and responding to it. And if you see my Bruce Lee quote here, he said, "Practice makes perfect. After a long time of practicing, our work will become natural, skillful, swift, and steady." And that's really why we're doing this in a nutshell, because writing insightfully requires practicing thinking insightfully. And in this busy day and age, we don't often have time to do that. And so this will be time carved out of our class period each day to practice this kind of thinking in sustained intellectual ways. Okay, so I'm going to model this for you really quickly. So this is a much shorter passage than you'll usually get. This is a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance. We'll read more of his work later this semester. He's a famous American writer and a famous American philosopher. And so just a tiny little passage of what he wrote. He wrote, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines." So after I had some time to sit there and think about it, I sort of paraphrased that to mean his idea is that only by thinking for ourselves can we experience our full potential as members of society. So after I've read the passage and I boiled it down here on this slide, you can see how I did that. I would share with my table group, I think he's saying this, and then we would kind of make sure everybody's on the right page with what he was saying. Now I'm going to respond to that idea. And so you have at your table a version of my model journal response. And I'm not going to read the entire thing for you. You'll be able to read it. It'll also be linked into the slide deck that you'll have available to you. But I want you to notice as you look at my model, you can see that I start with his idea and then I go into my own reaction to that idea. And a lot of my writing in my journal is things like questions. It's sort of examples from my own life, examples from things that I've observed in the real world. But yet I keep coming back to what he wrote. So I spend some time writing, and then at some point in my journal, I refer to his phrase, foolish consistency. So it's kind of a balance between those two things. It's like your own idea, but also connecting back to what appears in the passage. So all of your journal entries should demonstrate reflectiveness, and that's really what we're practicing, and go beyond trite or superficial responses. It's perfectly acceptable to include questions, personal connections, or connections to daily life, but in essence, these should be examples of sustained intellectual thought. You'll also have an assignment sheet available to you that lays out the expectations for how this is going to be graded. After our unit is over, you're going to hand in your journal work and as a collection, and we'll be able to see sort of the growth and progression of your ability to engage in reflective thinking and reflective writing, so that when you go to write your first essay and all of your remaining essays, you will be an expert at reflection and insightfulness. All right, that is it. If you have questions, please talk to your study group. Of course, always you can talk to your professor and we will help you answer any questions you might have. But I hope you enjoy this. It's not a natural way of thinking in this hurried day and age, but I hope that you find it to be satisfying and a purposeful exercise. Right on.